Hi everyone, my name is Tatto Mokwena, and in today's video I am going to show you my brain model for my OPV module and also explain certain aspects about it. This is part 1 of my video, and before we get into that, I will tell you guys a little bit about the brain, explaining its functions and why it is important as teachers that we learn and understand the brain and its functions. The brain is the most complex part of the human body. This 3-pound organ is the seat of intelligence, interpreter of the senses, initiator of body movement, and the controller of behavior. Lying in its bony shell and washed by protective fluid, the brain is the source of all qualities that define our humanity. The brain is the crown jewel of the human body. It is important for teachers and parents to understand that maturing of the brain influences learning readiness. For teachers, this is especially important when designing lessons and selecting strategies to use. When a teacher is familiar with neuroscience, they have a better understanding of the learning process. The more that the teachers expose themselves to neuroscience, the more they are able to find ways they can improve teaching and learning. In addition, when teachers know neuroscience, they get to be able to manage student behavior. Overview of the brain structure. There's the frontal lobe that is used for thinking, memory, behavior, and movement. And there's the parietal lobe, which is responsible for language and touch. Then there's the temporal lobe for hearing, learning, and feeling. There's also the occipital lobe, which is responsible for sight or seeing. Then beneath that, there is the cerebellum, which is responsible for balance and coordination. And finally, we have the brainstem, which is for breathing, heart rate, and temperature. The biggest part of the brain is the cerebrum. The cerebrum is the thinking part of the brain, and it controls your voluntary muscles, the ones that you move when you want them to. So you need your cerebrum to dance or kick a soccer ball. You need your cerebrum to solve math problems, figure out a video game, and draw a picture. Your memory lives in the cerebrum, both short-term memory, which is what you ate for dinner last night, and long-term memory, the name of the roller coaster you rode on 2 summers ago. The cerebrum also helps you to reason, like when you figure out that you'd better do your homework now because your mom is taking you to a movie later. The cerebrum has 2 halves, with one on either side of the head. Scientists think that the right half helps you to think about abstract things like music, colors, and shapes. The left half is said to be more analytical, helping you with math, logic, and speech. Scientists do know for sure that the right half of the cerebrum controls the left side of your body, and the left half controls the right side. Cerebral cortex. It covers the brain and it is wrinkled. There are 2 hemispheres to the brain, the right and the left hemisphere. Each hemisphere has 4 lobes, which are the occipital, parietal, temporal, and the frontal lobe. Central area involved in learning, memory, and processing of sensory information. Another brain part that is small but mighty is the brainstem. The brainstem sits beneath the cerebrum and in front of the cerebellum. It connects the rest of the brain to the spinal cord, which runs down your neck and back. The brainstem is in charge of all the functions your body needs to stay alive, like breathing air, digesting food, and circulating blood. Part of the brain stem's job is to control your involuntary muscles, the ones that work automatically, without you even thinking about it. There are involuntary muscles in the heart and stomach, and it's the brain stems that tells your heart to pump more blood when you're biking or your stomach to digest more for lunch. The brainstem also sorts through the millions of messages that the brain and the rest of the body send back and forth. This is part 2 of my video. I will be explaining my brain model. For my brain model, I made use of pieces of macaroni, Staedtler pen caps, hair ties, and pexes. And how I would interpret my brain model would be as follows. The macaroni represents three aspects of the brain, which are the frontal lobe, parietal lobe, and temporal lobe. The blue and purple caps represent the occipital lobe. The orange and yellow hair ties represent the cerebellum, and lastly, the plexus represent the brainstem, which is actually bigger in reality compared to this. This is part 3 of my video. And here I will be listing 3 aspects that I have learned during this creative process. The first one is that making a brain model is not as easy as I had initially thought. I attempted making the model with so many things before I finally settled for macaroni. Turns out that the process of making a brain was as complex as the organ itself. The second thing I learned was that the brain is responsible for a lot of things, that without it functioning well in human beings, then a lot of things would go wrong. Another thing I learned was that the brain has 2 hemispheres that contain the same lobes, but they still differ in other ways. 2 questions I have about the brain. The first question is, do blind people dream in visual image? That is something I've honestly always wondered and have tried researching about it, but didn't quite get the answer that satisfied me. The second question is, what is intelligence? Throughout my academic life, I've wondered if learners who could easily come up with answers and fast enough are the smartest. I would wonder if intelligence has to do solely with the brain and getting higher marks than others. What I found the most interesting that I have definitely tried in terms of training my own brain is multitasking. I found out that multitasking helped me to be quicker and efficient in getting my work done. There is a higher productivity and I get to have better reaction to complex tasks. Thank you for watching.